Describe your job profile and the work you're involved in, and how you've evolved through these 15 years in terms of responsibility, and what has your professional learning been like being in this very niche career?
So basically, my job profile includes climate change programming. I work as the head of climate change in Save the Children in UK since last year, September. Before that, I was the climate and environment advisor with DFID, Department for International Development. And I worked in this sector for more than a decade now. I mean, I'm a development sector professional, but I got into climate change around 10 years ago, or maybe a bit less. So my profile right now is that I lead on climate change programming within Save the Children UK. I look at climate change strategies. How do I mainstream climate risks and climate action planning across Save the Children portfolio? How do we advocate for action towards climate change? Produce research, produce more evidence around how climate impacts children, how children are impacted in various ways because of climate change, and how we're in a crisis mode rather than in a normal mode. We need to address climate change in a war footing way, and this is what we're doing in our organization as well. So we're trying to mainstream climate change across different sectors: education, health, livelihood, and child protection and child rights. As well as we are trying to push governments within UK and across to adopt more stringent climate change planning, and to raise ambition around climate change, like to take up net zero policies, to reduce the phase of to actually phase out fossil fuel faster, to adopt more cleaner fuels, and also that we reduce overall emissions. Overall current emissions, and ensure that we reach the Paris Agreement of well below 2 degrees temperature. And experience in this field has been that it takes a bit of time to ensure that people understand how we mainstream climate across development programs. Traditional programs that did not take climate into consideration have been designed for so many years. It's time to change that traditional programming, and to build that understanding takes time. But once governments or local stakeholders, organizations, donors, development partners understand that it's important to address climate risks, then it gets easier. And I've also learned that there are synergies with the development goals that we're trying to achieve, including all SDGs, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And if we can kind of align our climate programs with development goals, it's easier to get the message across that mainstreaming is useful. There are no trade-off. It's not either climate action or development programs. It's both together.
In relation to what you said, how relevant will generic policies, like you said, under conventions like the Paris Agreement and future COP meetings, among other similar initiatives, be in the coming decades? How relevant will these be? And is there a need to shift the paradigm towards more education and awareness campaigns like the Green Education Partnership of Multi-Partner Trust Fund, for example, that was established by the COP28?
Has evolved from in the last 10 years. During Paris Agreement in 2015, the countries pledged to ensure that the global temperatures, we'll make all the efforts to ensure that the global temperatures remain well below 2 degrees, with the endeavor to ensure that we will not let it exceed beyond 1.5 degrees. So So because the science showed that we're gradually moving towards 1.5, and we will surpass 2, 3, or 4 degrees by the end of this century. And efforts including cutting down fossil fuel, adopting net zero policy, ensuring that we are net zero by 2050. Most countries, especially the developed countries, are net zero by 2050. We'll be able to change the graph and um, uh, I mean, uh, ensure that the global temperatures are not. Doesn't go beyond 1.5 degrees. So science is very clear. It talks about what kind of stringent action is required to years have been that basically, one we start telling people that climate risk management or climate change considerations need to be mainstreamed across programming, especially for developmental sector. It takes time for people to understand first what it means, whether it's something additional, whether it's going to actually be a conflict towards between developmental outcomes or climate change outcomes. So it takes a bit of a time to kind of tell people to one let make sure that they understand what climate change programming means, climate action programming that delivers on critical climate considerations as well. And once they understand that, it gets easier considerations, climate risk management within development sector programming. When people when when whoever you work with, let's say a health sector professional or a local governments who are designing policies around uh, housing, transport, poverty elevation programs, and all of that. Once they understand why it is important, why it is necessary to reduce the climate change risk, and how we can do it, you give them practical examples, practical solutions. Then it is easier for us to work with those professionals and work with those actors to ensure climate is mainstream. So I think building understanding takes time. We have to also show what are good practices, how it can be done, what are practical solutions, and then it's easier for us to work with these actors, these stakeholders.
And also influence governments to uh, take up these policies and set accountability that they're
Hmm.
following the goals. And being in a very niche career like this, how do you describe the work that you do in very simple terms?
Um, how do I describe the work that I do? Okay, so basically, I participate in one. I read a lot about what is the what is the science telling about climate change. What are the scientists telling us or sharing with us that why are we calling it a climate change? Why are we calling that that it's necessary for us to act now and not wait? What it means if we don't act. So just understanding the implications of our inactions, and understanding how our actions can actually help save the earth, basically. Uh, in clear terms, the scientists are saying that we are approaching doomsday, and doomsday faster. We're approaching global warming up to 4 degrees Celsius, or even more, faster than it was anticipated before. And we're already seeing so much of destruction happening, so much of weather related events getting intensified, increasing in frequency, and all of that. So basically, it's for me, it's really important to understand what the science says and understand what we can do. And then I think the programs that we design, or the work that we do with communities, we need to ensure that that understanding also gets translated to at the community level or people we work with, let's say the local government or any department, private sector. So how we can influence, build understanding and influence change and influence solution oriented, or maybe result oriented solutions, for that matter. So is that the question? I've forgotten the question now. It's
It was,
about what do I feel in this niche space, right? How do
yeah,
I work in this niche space?
because it's a very unique kind of career option to follow. That's where तो उसको लिखने के health hazards a factor with respect to climate change that drive a family's reluctance to expose the female child to education and also avert these families from towards aspects related to phenomena like flood and hurricanes.
To simplify it a bit more, climate change act as a stress multiplier to existing vulnerabilities or existing issues that are already prevalent, like poverty, inequality, discrimination, and all of that are already prevalent in our society, and especially faced by the poor communities and poor households. And poverty actually pushes households um, to stop girls from going to school, to um, uh, to ensure that the girls are contributing to the household chores, because of because the burden falls on women to run the household. So girls are also kind of at early ages stopped from going to school so that they can support their mothers or the household chores basically. So poverty does that, but climate change is acting as a stress multiplier. Over and above, climate actually pushes people to fall back into poverty or to push them further into poverty. And this is because climate is inducing extreme weather events like a lot of flooding. Flooding destroys, let's say, infrastructure. Flooding destroys infrastructure, school infrastructure, road and transport infrastructure. So it becomes further more difficult for, especially for girls, to reach school or to attend school. Or also, again, it pushes people pushes households back into poverty. So they don't have enough money to actually let the girl child. Ensure that the girl child is taught. Uh, because it's a patriarchal society, boys get the preference. But in a case when the household doesn't have money at all children can be pushed to, or can leave school. But girls leave school before, even before that's the difference. But so I was saying climate change act as a stress multiplier basically. So in the instance of a weather related event like a drought or floods, it it becomes apparent that girls lose the opportunity of going to school because there are several factors. Because the either the infrastructure gets damaged, like I said, roads and all, or the households are pushed back into poverty. One of the examples you had also asked if I had come across an example. So I when I used to work in India, we used to travel to states like Jharkhand, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, and all, and we interacted with some of these households that were reeling through drought. So I visited a village which was actually reeling under drought, severe drought-like conditions. For 2 3 years they didn't have a proper rainfall. The water bodies were getting dry. They had to walk kilometers to get drinking water actually. And the girls in that village had to drop out of school because they had to help their mothers to fetch water. It usually takes 3 to 4 hours or even more for a family to get drinking water for the day. And they had to actually make that round several times a day. In a day, they had to make several the round several times in a day. And obviously, the women of the household was involved in cooking and did not have the spare time to do this additional work. So, girls of the household were made to do that. And this is a very direct impact of climate change. That because of climate change, there are shifts in monsoons. There are drier seasons, long spells of dry season, long spell of of long dry spell basically, and the drought actually forces households to either migrate or to push girls into further poverty, to child marriage, to child labor, to also drop out of school, and all of those. So these are direct implications that girls face because of climate change. And research, there are a lot of research evidence that shows that these are direct implications, and I saw them while working in India in some of these states.
So do you think that instead of trying to, because they are the new generation and they're directly impacted, instead of trying to go into fields that can help them solve the crisis by stepping into STEM fields through further education, they're stopped to go into such STEM fields because they don't have basic education itself because they have to drop out?
I think STEM education is further down the line. So at the I mean, at the poor household level, the community level, I think for one first we need to ensure that girls get educated. I mean, they should have a basic education. They should have financial literacy, so that when they grow up, they have a chance to earn for themselves, earn a decent living for themselves, rather than being dependent on the male member of the household, or rather than pushed. I mean, they can actually transform or convert their lives into a better lives if they're more educated. So that's the basic. So basic education for all is the primary concern, especially for the poor households. The other aspect is around what you're talking about, STEM. I mean, women don't usually get into girls don't usually pick up STEM as a subject. There are fewer. I don't know what the statistics says. You have those statistics from the link that I shared with you. That says I think it's probably one. I don't know if it's less than 20 or less than 30 women choose STEM as the subject or are in science or research. And to ensure that climate action gets a priority in policy, in planning, and everything, we should have 50% of the population, which comprises of women and girls, to also participate in climate action planning. And if more and more women take up science as their subject, they'll be able to contribute to climate action
These
planning.
50% come in the people who are directly affected by these as well. So it lessens the impact when most of them are taken out of education very early on. So in the future also they won't be able to step in.
Yeah, I mean, in any case, they also do their household planning. They're the ones responsible for the welfare of their household and children. So, if they understand what are the risks of climate, how they can deal better with climate change or the crisis that is upon us, I think they'll be able to contribute. They'll be more resilient and adapt to the changing environment.
In relation to that, is mental health also a very important factor that comes with climate change, and how does, especially in the girl child, and how does this hinder further opportunities and development uh, for them?
So again, there are researches and evidence that actually correlates health with climate change. I mean, there are disease burdens that gets aggravated or increases because of climate change. I mean, you know how malaria, cholera, diseases like those are vector borne or water borne, that have direct implication of the weather, as in the changing climate, be it excessive rainfall, poor drainage, and all of that. But nowadays, there are researches around how climate change is impacting mental health. I mean, there are direct as well as indirect implications or correlations. I mean, science actually says that especially children who studying at the moment and who reading about climate change, who understand that the world is going towards a doomsday faster. There is a climate crisis upon them. They know that in by 2050, if countries don't actually adopt stringent actions or reduce their fossil fuel emissions or adopt a net zero policy, the world will see a 3-degree temperature rise. And I mean, currently we are at 1.2-degree temperature rise, and we're already seeing so many catastrophes happening across the globe, so many weather related events happening. And at
Like
3-degree,
Delhi.
we don't even know what's going to happen. So I think that causes a lot of anxiety among children. There is mental health issues also, indirectly as well, like broken families, especially when in the poor households or poor communities, when climate change drives people, or especially the men folks, to migrate to find jobs. The women and girls are the ones, or the old are the ones who are left behind. And that definitely causes a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental issues and all of that. So there are a direct and indirect correlation to mental health of girls because of climate change. Again, there is a lot of evidence that talk about those. We don't have programs that specifically address mental health, but I think these implications are now increasing and will become really will become an issue for policymakers in the years to come, and we have to address them. And we, if we start early, it's better that we find
Will there be
solution.
a need for professions into addressing the mental well-being of normal civilians as well as combating climate change together? Because it'll further down, it'll affect everybody more. So there'll be a need for
Yeah.
climate change in the climate change sector, specifically for climate change and mental health together to address them professionally.
Yeah, I mean, one, to understand how climate change impacts, how policies around climate change can reduce these impacts on mental health, and then ensuring that we design more informed programs that actually, I mean, record these impacts and ensure that whatever interventions are designed are contributing to reduction in those impacts.
Um, आपने एक मुझे जब मैं आपसे बात करी थी, you told me that there is an event coming up of
Hmm.
yours some on 25th or something about the youth in general in relation to climate change. So can you just in general talk about this event or events in general that address youth and climate change together and their awareness in education? And how it impacts the general public and what they contain that gives them information to.
So basically, this event is part of the London Climate Action Week, which is from 22nd till 28th of June. Our organization is actually hosting a panel discussion, getting some professionals, practitioners together to talk about how women, youth, and girls play an important part in climate action planning. Um, so basically, we'll hear different perspectives around what role they can play, what role they're playing, and how we can improve their participation in climate action planning. I mean, this is just a discussion. I think this kind of gets is already aligned with what everybody is talking about, how we can improve that. And also, we're also talking about inclusion in education and climate programming and climate sector. How do we integrate the outcomes of education sector with climate, so that there is co-benefit or benefit in both these, and how we can ensure inclusion. I mean, these are more inclusive, like there are gender specific results that we are trying to generate, or results that are linked to disability, persons living with disability and all of that. So we're tackling two subjects here. And I'm yet to see what people will talk about. I mean, this event hasn't happened, so I can share more when the event has happened, and if there is a summary that I can send you.
In relation to focusing on women and gender, how do you think technological advancements driven by women in STEM be leveraged to mitigate emissions and adapt to climate change at a country specific level or at a global level in general? How can women in specific contribute to these advancements for mitigation?
I don't have a very direct answer to this. Obviously, I mean, if women get involved in this field, we increase the workforce involved in this field. Is basically the idea is that it's not to imply that men. I mean, women can bring in technologies that are better than men. It's not a comparison, but it's more about how many people can actually be involved in designing these technology, and how we can actually include the point of view of different section of the society. Women comprise of a very big section of a society. I mean, if we're losing or if we're not integrating their views or perspectives, we are missing out on a section of a perspective, or a section of a solution. So the solutions will not be rounded, will not be complete if we don't have perspectives. That's why we say, when we're working with communities, the entire community has to participate, so that we design a holistic solution. We can't leave behind the poorest, or the women or the children, or people who are socioeconomically backward or marginalized or whatever. I mean, we have to get in the perspective of everybody, so that whatever solution we provide is right for everybody, and not just one person, or not just one section. So I mean, having women being involved in technology itself will show that it'll be a rounded technology. It will cater to their needs, it will cater to their requirements.
Like firsthand, they'll be able to relate their own experiences, and it will not be just study based. It will be the whole entire humanity will be involved in the professions if women get exposure to the education for the skill sets that are required.
Yeah. Yeah, so they can bring some very local solutions, because they know what impacts them more, what impacts their children more. So they can bring those solutions in and ideas in when they're involved. And yeah, I mean, will ensure that it is for the whole of society rather than for just one section of a society.
This will also be beneficial more if women of many ethnicities and different cultures also come together,
Mm.
uh, and that's why there
Yeah.
is a need to go towards more people in general, so that they get awareness and want to step into this study and further make a career out of this.
Correct. Yes.
So, what
Yeah, we
kind
should
of
get voices from different areas, age group, uh, I mean, socioeconomic background, so that, I mean, we are in essence not leaving anybody behind. The principle of leave no one behind gets actually fulfilled by involving people right from the design and delivery.
what kind of new jobs or skill sets do you think would be required in the coming decade to combat the climate crisis, which are not existent right now?
Oh, I don't know. Uh, I mean, the world is changing very fast. Obviously, that technical. I mean, we need more technical solutions, faster, efficient technical solutions that actually help us transition to a low carbon economy, to a high. I mean, transition from a high carbon economy to a low carbon economy. Our dependence on fossil fuel to a cleaner sort of a fuel. Our rate of consumption and all of that, we whatever solutions we would need today and faster. So, and these solutions comprise more of technology. I mean, I assume that there are more technical solutions that would be required for us to transition, and for and that's a big area or a big field where this generation can actually be skilled into, so that one, they're able to I mean, they become capable, or their ability improves to design these solutions that involve technology. It is a technical skill, so those skills have to be gained right now. And two, I think the world itself, in any case, is changing because of the advent of AI. I mean, digitization. I mean, the work we recognize 20 years back no longer exist. A lot of people are not working on one jobs, working, taking data on pen and paper. Everything is computerized, everything is digitized. The world is moving faster, we are connecting faster. So I think all of those skills would be required, for us to understand, so that we can contribute or work in that space. So yeah, it's moving quite fast, and these skills need to be imparted now rather than later.
आई थिंक ये बहुत अच्छा सा आंसर था, मैं वो एआई का इन्वॉल्व कर सकती हूँ अपनी उसमें, मैंने इसके बारे में सोचा नहीं था.
हाँ, एआई तो करना ही इन्वॉल्व बोला. एआई तो will change, I mean, big data and how fast the data is moving, and it can actually shape the world, can also help us shape
Data
the climate action.
to collect data and faster and analyze it faster.
Collect data, analyze it, use it to design solutions in a more faster, efficient way, so that instead of reaching our goal in 2050 or 2070, we reach it faster.
And reach out to people in remote areas in a very easy way, which was not possible.
Uh, Also, also reducing the impacts, like early warning systems. I mean, early warning systems can now be communicated faster than it was earlier. And AI can definitely be of great help to reduce the impacts of climate change that we are facing right now, like hurricanes, cyclones, droughts, floods. So if we have better technologies to give us an early warning, or to help us prepare faster, it will reduce our losses, the loss to life, loss to economy, loss to infrastructure, and all of that. So that ways also will help in this field, and they come from different communities, different geographies, different background experience, and all of that, and that always helps. Working in sectors like this, especially climate change, you cannot disregard the traditional knowledge or the knowledge that the local communities have. I cannot come out with a solution, or come with a solution reading a book about India, or about, let's say, Jharkhand, or even Africa, and tell them that this is how they should tackle climate change. I think it's more important to work with them. Communities know best how they can actually adapt or cope with climate change. They have their own traditional knowledge. They understand these climatic variabilities more than us, because they've seen the pattern. We can only share with them the scientific knowledge, and relate it to what the science is telling us. So I think
But in
it's important to.
general,
Hmm.
uh, my question basically is, in very simple terms, what do you think about, because you've been working in the field since so long, what do you think about women participation within your own company? Like, how do you think it is, and is it less, is it more, and how do you think that is necessary, like in specific women in the field who work towards that?
No, there are a lot of women working in this field. In fact, more women than men, I would say. In development sector in general, we've done really well in including women, or ensuring that women are included in decision making. So in my current organization and previous organization, we had more women in the team than men, and I've seen women are, taking up these jobs more and more. There are opportunities also now becoming greater with women participation.
So in regards to this, would you also say that sensitivity towards a topic, and how a gender actually responds to it? So like, if women are more uh, careful and uh, use their intellect more towards sensitive topics like these, is there also a necessity to include all genders together and still have equality in the field?
To put it very simply, in any field, it's important for us to include, to be inclusive, to ensure that we give opportunity to everybody equally, and we are talking about equality and equity, and having an inclusive approach so that we don't uh, create conditions that actually leave people behind. I mean, everybody should get that opportunity. So, be it in any field, and I think gender inclusiveness, there is a lot of awareness around inclusion and gender equality and equity. And in this field, there is more, because this is what we talk. I mean, this is our bread and butter. We talk about gender equality day in and day out. So, uh, I feel that definitely gender equality is important in these fields.
Um, so ये वैसे उसमें था नहीं, but I just thought of it because मैंने आपकी LinkedIn पे भी देखा था, your initial studies were related to architecture, right?
Hmm.
And being in the design field. So how did that uh, come to climate change? How did you relate that and choose to come to this profession? And how does these
Hmm.
technicalities, how do you use them in your work?
Um, so I did my architecture, and I thought when I picked my master's in environmental planning was to get into more green building planning or green housing, or policies that can help ensure that our cities are designed in a way that is environmental friendly. I mean, it contributes positively to the environment. So I did environmental planning after architecture, and then climate was an upcoming field. Once I stepped into the development sector, I saw there were programs and there were policies. I mean, the science was getting established at that time, when in 1984 the Brundtland Commission was, came about. There were pledges, and then we had Kyoto Protocol, and all of those things were happening while my career was progressing. And I thought this is a field that nobody can ignore, and I gradually, I mean, came into this field. It wasn't like a very informed sort of a decision. I think it became apparent after a while that this is something that I should be pursuing. But all of the education that I've gained, or have taken, does support what the work that I do. I mean, architecture also helps me understand how these buildings can be more energy efficient. Although I'm not designing buildings, but I understand how this sector, the construction and the planning sector contributes hugely to emissions. The right planning, the right way we design our buildings, we place our buildings, do land use planning, and all of that can actually reduce carbon emissions and all. So all of that knowledge and the practice does help me understand some of these solutions. And yeah, I think that's about it.
In general, a knowledge base and then relating it to climate change, it's necessary for future careers in this in the field as well. So everything has to come down to solving a world problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like everybody can get into this field, but everybody has to be aware that this is happening and how they can best contribute. I mean, in our day to day lives, not just professional, in our day to day lives also, like what you're buying, how you are taking care of your environment, how you're disposing of your waste, how you're kind of consuming, how all of that. I mean, I think the new generation is more aware than us, but they need to understand that they're part of the solution rather than somebody else is part of the solution, because everybody has to contribute or do their part to ensure that the world is more safer and more better.
Actually, do you think generations of children being born directly into these climate change attributed environments somehow automatically and directly get affected? And whether it is both underprivileged or born into well-off families, do all these children who are now being born in the climate crisis get affected by it?
Yeah, some or the other way, all of us are getting impacted. Children will get impacted. I mean, no matter wherever they're born, be it in a developed, I won't say rich or poor, but be it in a developed world or developing world, all children will get impacted. I mean, children living in America are facing more hurricanes, more cyclones, more heat waves. I mean, children in Europe, who did not see temperatures reaching 45 degrees are facing that. So everybody is getting impacted by climate change. Nobody is left behind. But yes, the poor, the developing country, the underdeveloped world are getting impacted more because they don't have the means to tackle. They're the ones who least contributed, but they're the ones who are facing the brunt more.
And do you think well-off families uh, cater to more exposure to these matters and are well educated to tell their girl child, especially about these, and that encourages girls to go into uh, programs or extracurriculars related to technology building from beginning, or does exposure not matter that?
No, absolutely, it matters. I mean, exposure, understanding, knowledge definitely matters, and I mean, the rich families do have the means to ensure that their girl child is educated and is educated in a field that is more appropriate, that will be more appropriate in the future.
Do you have वैसे आपने केस स्टडी तो अभी बताई थी इस झारखंड इसकी but in general do you have a case study of a pre-teen or teen girl uh, was who was affected by the climate change or had some part of her life affected by it in general in your work with?
मतलब मेरे को ऐसे डायरेक्टली तो नहीं पता, but I've heard about these stories, and people who work with me have told me about the stories about forced migration, break. I mean, families getting broken, child marriage. Child marriage is sometimes under 10 also. I mean, girls are sold. There is heightened trafficking because of migrants or migrating families that don't have anywhere to live, so they sell their children, and especially girls, into child labor and all of that. So there are a lot of stories around. I haven't directly, I haven't spoken to a family that has done that, but I've read so many reports and case studies that say that because of climate induced displacement or migration, these cases are becoming more prevalent and more increased.
Um, in context of India, because you worked before, a lot of your work was involved in India beforehand. Do you think aid provision in small indigenous rural areas, like for example, in the hill stations of India, that remain who are which are very tourist heavy, but still the indigenous troops are not that aware. So, do you think more home oriented climate change awareness under education programs or the Ministry of Education for teenage girls in government schools would help them understand their own area better and uh, not be subject to such atrocities?
So these questions basically are very, I mean, are hypothesis questions. So I can't answer them in the sense that I'll give you, okay, in my experience, because I have done this research or whatever. I can't answer these questions in a direct way. I can only share an opinion.
Opinion.
And for me, an opinion would be yes. Ideally, it should. But I won't be able to. I mean, you can't say that, okay, so so and so person said, but that this can happen and this will happen.
Do you feel that if girls are aware of their own home region more and how it's impacting them, they'll be better off and not
I did. Yes, absolutely. I mean, these are very generic questions in the sense that, yes, definitely, if girls are more aware of their surroundings, what impacts them, how where they live actually is getting impacted by climate, they will be able to make informed decisions. They will know what risks they face, what risks their families face, and if they are able to, I mean. I mean, if they were educated in this field, they might be able to also contribute by providing certain solution, like telling them mothers and parents, how important it is to ensure that how the houses are ventilated. Summers are going to get more harsher, winters are going to get more harsher. I mean, something like that. So, being aware and being and able to understand their risk and understand how they can mitigate those risks are always helpful. I mean, it is helpful for everybody in the family.
Uh, just the last question was that because you work in the developmental sector of risk management and with vulnerable communities, from the previous questions also that you answered, is there a direct correlation or causation between factors, social issues like child marriage and climate change directly? Um,
Yeah. Yes, like I said, there is a correlation, and people, I mean, there are evidence and research that are coming out that find those correlation. And I mean, I'm sure you'll be able to find those in the net. There are researches by international institutions who are saying that climate actually are inducing migration and displacement of families, and that actually leads to several impacts for a girl child, child marriage, child labor.
due to climate change that has happened
Yeah.
and impacted them in the long run.
Yes.